X features 4 different modules. The Sources module, delivering sample sets to be processed within X. The Pre-X engine, preparing the samples for the X engine. The Post-X engine, finalizing the X'd sound. And the X engine itself, the convolution module of X, ready to completely transform the sound with its X files. It all begins with the sources, the origin of each sound from X. The sources are thousands of sample sets, especially and exclusively recorded and tweaked for use with effects convolution. Depending on the character of these source sounds, X features 3 different instrument layer types. The layers represent the complete instruments, including the sources and all effects engines. The layers can be loaded in the layer list on the left of the engine player. X keys for tonally playable instruments, X effects featuring all kinds of effect sounds, and X loops with thousands of special effects loops. For X keys, we recorded over 500 tonally playable instruments. Among them, attack sounds like acoustic and synthetic basses, beaten instruments like a hammered tempura, bowed instruments like bowed cymbals, noises which work very well as a source for effects convolution, overtone instruments, reversed sounds, weird synthesizer sounds, all kinds of release sounds triggered when releasing a key, and sustaining sounds featuring categories like bad and nasty, bowed sustains, effects sustains, noises, and voicey. After loading one of these instrument layers, you get access to 3 different sources in the top triangle of the X user interface. For easy and effective use, the sources are mapped differently for the 3 instrument layer types. With X keys, all sounds are mapped over the whole keyboard. This way, all loaded source sounds are played on top of each other with every key you play. Load up to 3 key sources, get the levels the way you want them, and send the result to the next modules. X Effects features thousands of special effects sounds like bowed and scratched effects, electro effects, sounds from different gear like analog delay feedbacks or tape stops, abused guitar sounds, hundreds of hits like kick bangs or piano hits, key gong magic balls, flute and voice phrases, reverse effects, soundscapes, strange but real sounds like Gopiantra or the Thunder Tube, hundreds of waterphone effects, and electronic zaps and friends. With X Effects, the mapping is different. The main effects sources feature different samples mapped from C3 upwards. This way you can use different samples of a type simultaneously, but also get an overview of all samples featured by this source. Every effect source has an associated folder of the same name and the appendix Singles. Here you'll find source sections for every sample. A lot of effects sounds are really cool when they are pitched way up or down. Our effects sounds are mapped over the whole keyboard so you can achieve this easily. So with X Effects, choose a source. Find a sample you like. Choose the corresponding single source. And layer sounds on top of it if you like. And the final source category is the X Loops, presenting over 2,500 loop samples, including beatbox and body percussion, chopped loops, circuit bent and friends, echo loops, different effects loops, all kinds of hit samples, add-on loops, noisy loops, percussion and drum loops, real drum loops, shakers and friends, tonal loops, vinyl loops, weird percussion, and world grooves. With X Loops, we wanted to give you the flexibility of using up to 36 different loops at a time. We achieve this by assigning 1 octave of the keyboard to each of the 3 sources. Loop source 1 can be played between C2 and B2, loop source 2 between C3 and B3, and loop source 3 between C4 and B4. This way you can layer and play 3 loop sources of up to 36 loop samples at a time. As you can see, even just by choosing sources, layering them by 3 and getting the right levels gives you trillions of sound variations. But if this is not enough, you can edit every source sound in detail by using Pro Edit. Double-click on the Pro Edit button, and choose the X source you want to change. Here you get access to a filter with different low pass, high pass, and band pass filters, to the source's volume envelope, to a modulation matrix with lots of modulation sources and destinations, and to a whole bunch of different insert effects. And because all these source sounds are just the food for the X engine, the combinations and sound possibilities are endless.